I'm a rambling gram with synchronicities all over the web. And Darren is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
Grimerica.
Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, that's a trinity. That's the triad that are very similar. But then the nitrogen aspect, there's a lot smaller percentage of what life is made up of is nitrogen.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Ryan Merkle a little bit later, getting into some quadrant theory. A little complicated at times, but he does a pretty good job breaking it down. Something we never really heard of before. He tracked us down on Facebook, and I'm glad we had him on the show. It was a fun show and an interesting chat. I know the live people seem to like it. And we got Graham, Can't Leave My House Dunlop here out of his house.
I'm out of my house. I can leave.
Attaboy.
I can leave.
Remember
I just don't want to leave.
Remember when you were podcasting from home?
Yeah, well, that might come to that again.
Come a long
it
way.
might come to that again. I mean, you know.
It better not.
It
I'll
might.
be super disappointed in you if you stop
we
coming
can't
to the
live. Hey, it's just the live streaming. We can stop live streaming. We do whatever the fuck we want.
Now we'll just say we green screened it. We're in different studios.
Yeah. We're just spliced together.
Why can't we live stream?
Because it's just obvious that you're breaking the rules.
What if we sit like this?
Yeah, then it's okay, I guess. Yeah. I don't care, to be honest with you. I don't care.
Me either.
I'm just so we're talking.
We'll get a mask.
We're going to ramble a little bit here in the intro. We got, we try not to talk about COVID, and this is one of those episodes where we shouldn't be talking about it. But since this is all getting really close to home, we're going to have to talk about it a little bit, I think. You know,
okay.
This is so we're just going to ramble on a little bit. You can fast forward to the episode if you want. The actual interview with Ryan. It was a great chat.
Timestamp in the show notes.
Yeah.
If you don't want to hear a lazy rambling.
But we're just entering.
All COVID.
What do we have a color code like Ontario for the lockdowns?
The purple zone.
We're in the purple. No. That's the location.
I feel like that's.
I'm talking about the
region.
red. The red. They're in the reds in Ontario.
Oh, are they? I don't know. I talked to Kyle though, and he said nothing's closed. Everything's business as usual in Northern Ontario.
Yeah, that's coming. It's coming though. They said it was coming. I saw a little bit of Doug Ford's speech. Speaking of Doug Ford, they're crowded around his house right now, banging pots and pans. So I love it. I love it.
He might change his tune.
I mean, is that what we have to do? Is that what we have to do? We have to find our politician's house and bang pots and pans, or send emails, I guess. I mean, is that working? Is that even going to work? I don't think any of this stuff. There's something fucking really fishy going on here. Because I don't know what to say. I'm blown away the last few days. I'm a little bit out of sorts. Hearing our premier talk about it, trying to straddle that line between freedoms, which people seem to think we still have too much freedom here because the restaurants are barely open.
Vocal minority.
Right? Yeah, probably. But we still have that tiny little bit of freedom, but we can't go visit each other. We can't have people over. We have to wear masks indoors now, and businesses. There's all kinds of new lockdown. I think it's comparable to Ontario's red, maybe orange. I think we're still, fairly. I don't know what to say, but it's creepy. But it's creepy to see it happen. Just with your own premier talking about all the studies that show that masks really show us those studies.
I missed all that.
I watched the whole thing. I got to tell you.
And I came back and my phone just started blowing up. All these texts start coming through. Are you watching this? These motherfuckers. Can you believe it? I'm like, oh boy.
Well, I was in this other group chat with a bunch of people from Vancouver that are all opposing this, connecting with other people through my buddy Rye.
I sent you the list of the stores that are cool.
Is that from Rye's website? Yeah. Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah. So anyways.
I mean, honestly, my thing is every store has been cool. Every single one.
Okay. Anyways.
I haven't tried to go to Costco or Walmart, though, because I'm not interested in giving them my money.
Well, they're different because they have corporate rules and they won't let you in probably. Did you see that viral video of that lady from Calgary going in and the cops came and she couldn't go in and didn't have a mask? And you didn't see that?
No.
In the Costco? Yeah.
I think Costco
and everybody's shaming her on
Costco's gone above
Instagram, and it's
beyond.
like, oh, I know that's. So, anyways,
You can shame me all you want. Apparently, I'm a Chad. I still don't know what
you're
that
a
is.
based Chad.
Yes.
You didn't get a definition for that?
I got a couple of memes. Actually, one just came in.
Okay, can we just we're just fucking bouncing all over on the topics.
Can I tell you?
We have to have a little bit less interruption and more streamlined discussion here, please.
Oh, what? We're going to change it up 460 episodes in?
This is worse than normal.
Is it?
Yeah. I can't even finish off a thought.
Maybe your thoughts are just broken.
Maybe. I'm excited.
And it just seems
I'll
like
look
it.
into that.
Okay.
I will. I was just explaining about the group of guys, and I was watching them watch the live show. I was a little bit behind, and the guys were like, no lockdowns. Like, I was excited. And then when I started watching it, you see Kenny talking about the freedom, talking about how he understands that this could be worse than the thing. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good. He seems pretty aware of the issue about freedom. And then it changes, takes a turn, but we're locking everything down. But these are the rules. And it's just gross to hear it. Gross to hear it coming so close to home. I know people have been dealing with this all over the world, but
All the restaurants are open and stuff, though.
I've seen mask and lockdown studies that show that it's not helping. Where's all these ones, this bucket full of studies you're talking about that show that this is the way to go? It's just, I feel like we're just living under this huge lie, and I don't know what's going to happen and what to do about it. And we've been talking about it, the slow motion thing for 8 months now, 9 months, but now it's here.
I'm going to just keep stress testing it.
Yeah.
I got my sister coming.
But
to
should
town.
you? I mean, maybe you should stealth. Maybe you should stealth and just wait for the right opportunity to
My sister's
disengage.
flying into Edmonton, and then she's coming down for a couple days, help me deal with the elk. We got family coming out for Christmas.
But how are you going to stress test it?
Well, I'm just going to do those sorts of things. I got
Oh,
that
those
sign
things.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, but
put
that's
up
not very obvious.
signs. I'm going to put the sign on in my window.
It's the mask thing that's
Well,
really becoming to the point where Kenny even said it. They were highlighting this. Unless everybody does it, it's not going to work, and it's going to get worse. So everybody has to do it. Do your part. Fuck you. Like, so how has it been going so far? You think that that's because everybody hasn't doing it? And then there's this shame thing that's going on. Have you heard about the people that are feeling the shame? If anybody wants like a bi-weekly rundown of COVID stuff, No Agenda does it at the beginning of the show, twice a week. Look up the No Agenda show. Everybody's heard us talk about it before. They're highlighting this shame that people are having when they get COVID. They're shamed. They feel, what do you call it when you're put in that pigeonhole kind of thing? Like when you're...
Ostracized?
No, it's different. But there's a whole shame thing because they feel like they didn't do things right and all that, and that they've been labeled as like a far-right Trump supporter, anti-masker because they got the thing. I mean, people are so out of control. It just shows you that you can't control this thing. You can't wear masks and stay 6 feet apart and magically it's never going to get you. I mean, people think this.
I got told today by a friend of yours that meeting for dinner is a right-wing conspiracy or right-wing thing.
Yeah, this is how bad it is. It's unbelievable. Any kind of talk of freedom right now is selfish. Do your part for the Build Back Better.
Any of that? I'm not interested in doing my part.
Just a weird shame thing. The weird shame thing that I can't believe people don't realize that. And not only that, the testing. If you haven't got any symptoms and you think you're positive, you might not even have it. What do you think Portugal got rid of the PCR test? I can't believe they're still using the PCR test after all this debunking of it.
In some ways, I think I welcome the harsher measures. Seems like every time they clamp down a little harder, more people fucking hit the fan. So
maybe it'll get to that point where when enough countries and enough provinces lock down,
people just have enough.
Overreacting on these lockdowns, people will start to. Yeah, you might be right. My sister said that today. She said people are too smart. They're not going to go for this. It'll open up.
Yeah, I'm just going to bear with it. Another little while. Sucks.
Chad.
I had to wear a face shield today.
Well, that's better than a face mask. I mean, honestly.
I felt better.
It's not that like, this is what I don't
But you
understand.
know what? And then it's still like I go up and it's still like the same thing. Everyone's mastering on their chin, or at the beginning.
That's what I mean. It's
normal.
people are touching their face like 50 times a minute.
But none of them are sick. Like none of these guys missed any work.
Oh, what was that study you were talking about?
What study? I was talking about
Nurses and doctors more susceptible to respiratory.
I tweeted it or something.
Is that what made you a base Chad?
No, I think it's my hunting picks.
Oh, yeah. I know. I noticed your dead animals are in the chats and stuff. You got to post dead animals everywhere?
I just do what I want. And then I posted the Hitler vid just because it was pertinent, not because I'm a Hitler fan.
Exactly. What was the Hitler vid? I don't know if I saw that.
Him going on about internet people who live in all these different countries that are deciding German, basically calling out globalists. Someone called me an anti-Semite.
Of course.
I don't think he said Jews once. And I'm part Jewish.
The smart part.
The smart part. I don't know what the smart part is.
Yeah, you're the Ashkenazi. Aren't you a part of Ashkenazi? Or
2%, baby.
Yeah, they're the smartest people in the world.
Indians
apparently.
aren't far behind. So there we go.
So is that what got you called a base Chad then?
Yeah, but no, it's funny enough. It's come up like
there was two Chads.
It's come up a few times in the last couple of days.
It's awesome. So you're a Chad.
I guess I'm a Chad.
Wow.
What is it?
I'm not too sure. I'm not up enough on all that culture war stuff.
So do you want to give me a live thing on the definitions I'm getting from, what are we calling them? What are we calling Brian?
Chad.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why his nickname was Chad.
Oh boy, I can't say this on the show.
What?
Do you want to say it?
Are you doing definition of Chad? Okay, hang on. Why can't you say it?
I'm not saying it.
What?
Because
Come
it's a terrible
on.
soundbite.
Which one is it? At the bottom or
office here in the near future?
Which one is it? I don't understand. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand any better. I don't understand.
Right above that.
The bird one.
Below that.
Below that. Epic and based and red-pilled Chads dunk on soy cuck beta virgin faggots. See their harder go dilate tranny? What?
I don't know. You shouldn't have said that.
Why not? This is you.
I'm not. That's not what I said. That's what he sent me.
This is your label. This is your identity now.
Definition.
Epic and based and red-pilled Chads dunk on soy cuck beta virgin faggots. See harder go dilate tranny.
That's terrible.
That's your definition.
That's what I am.
That's what, I guess. I don't know. That's what you gave me to read.
So I said I didn't understand any better. I was walking to work this morning when this 6'2" dude with a square jaw and a strong chin came out of nowhere. He's dragging a luggage, plus a laptop bag, but he was out walking me. I generally walk pretty fast.
Say it again.
I generally walk pretty fast, but this guy was outpacing me, so I tried to keep up by walking immediately behind him to minimize air resistance. After walking like that for a while, he noticed and asked why I was walking so close behind him. And I told him I was drafting. He just said, "Oh, okay," and kept on going. After even more, he arrived at an office building and was greeted by a Stacy who asked me who I was. Chad said I was just drafting, as I said thank you and kept walking. In the distance, I heard Stacy say something weirdo, and Chad said he's just drafting. The end.
Well, hey, I don't think Chad is a tardy fellow, so you can't be a Chad. I mean, you definitely don't keep up that walking pace. I mean, maybe if you're hauling
LARPers when the Chad Doomer Keck looters tell them to cope to be more trad because they're not based enough. I don't understand 6 words in that sentence. So does this mean I'm officially old?
I'm lightheaded.
If I don't understand most of a paragraph?
You're old. You're just engaged in a proper way. You don't want to You don't want to know how much time you need to put in to understand that.
To understand those slang words?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I caught like half of them.
I'm not even sure.
But when you put them all together, like,
understand the keck thing.
Plus, the meaning just changes as these cultures want to change the meaning. I mean, they take a word and they change it, and then they put it back out as a different meaning. So, they change the dictionary on the fly.
Well, everything in Alberta was getting locked down crazily. I was on the Canadian Area 51.
Did you see anything?
These guys, you do not need to worry about. I'm telling you, even Michael was,
well, let's explain.
Even Truffaut was, no, we call him Michael on the show, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Michael was like, wow, I'm not so worried about the Canadian military anymore. It was just like kind of mixed up and not as nearly as.
You'd think they'd be on their prime right now.
You would think, yeah.
Being just about ready to lock the fucking country down.
They didn't give a fuck about masks really till their boss came out and was like, you got to watch the masks. You got to like.
But I don't understand. You're outside.
We kept getting out of the, because you have to, when you go on the base, you get searched. When you come off the base, you get searched.
Through a checkpoint type thing.
Yeah.
And they want you to wear a mask at the checkpoint?
Yeah, because you're interacting with their personnel.
In the truck?
But none of their no, you get out.
Oh, you get out and go into the
I see. The vehicle.
Oh, okay.
None of them gave a shit because I didn't wear. I actually brought a mask for that because I really wanted to go hunting.
Yeah.
And you're going on to military property, so I fully thought that if I said I was exempt, they might just say, "Well, go be exempt over there."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not a public space type thing. I'm trying to get onto private property in a sense.
So this is a huge military property.
That's like 2,700 square kilometers.
Really?
Yeah.
2,700? No, that much?
Yeah.
Wow. That's huge.
It's like 60 by 60 almost.
And they've got so many elk there that they have people go in and hunt.
Yeah, they give out 500 tags a year, plus they let some Indians in.
So 500 tags plus you guys. Huh.
I don't know that everyone fills it.
And
It sounds like in the first group, only half of them got filled. And a bunch of people got stuck.
So
like it's a mess out there. A lot of people were getting stuck.
Because there's no roads, or what do you? I don't understand.
Some roads, but they're not really plowed, and it's windy, and the snow's blowing around. And they're like, if you get stuck, don't call us. You're on your own out there. Yeah. And I've heard like so I guess the first batch of people that went in, like some people got stuck, were stuck for supposed to 2 days trying to get unstuck.
So is there a whole bunch of places to go in and enter then? Like how do you pick where you're going?
Through
like,
2 gates.
There's 2 gates to go in.
And
then is it only you at the time? Like during those days, it's only your party?
No, there was like when you showed up, there's like 100 trucks all in a queue. Yeah.
Really?
All running, all listening.
Really?
All listening to the orientation on the FM, and then they'd come by all the windows, and then you split up. So there's the main hunting areas, like the whole sort of east side of the base. West side of the base is very big, probably like 40K by 40K that you're just driving around and looking for animals. That's what we did the first day, didn't see much. And then there's a couple natural wildlife areas or something like that, NWAs, that you can't drive in. And there's special draws. So with the first day we put in our plate, we didn't get in. The second day we did. But then you can't drive in there. So it's a ton of walking. There's a ton of elk in there. We probably seen 1,000 elk almost that day. Hundreds and hundreds for sure. Like as soon as we went in there, we see them on the one side, see them on the other side, seen a herd of a couple hundred.
So but you weren't any closer to shooting them?
You're like a kilometer away.
Already? You're way out there? So how did you get from 1 kilometer to 5 kilometers away then? Because...
Well, this is where you're seeing them a kilometer or two, and they run fast. Like you start walking up to some elk that are a kilometer away, and they run away farther. But you have I have a scope, so I can see with my spotting scope a long ways. So there's a ton of people. We walked in and we're watching one herd. So you're watching. There's like probably 3 or 4 herds in these hills, and we just kept walking, and we were going after the main herd, going after, and they kept going farther and farther. We were trying to catch them before they got too far, but 5 kilometers in, or like 3.5 miles, there's the river ridge, and it's pretty steep, and it's hard for them to get down. So I was trying to head them off there because when we came by, there was a bunch of people walking in up on the north of them. So we went down to the south of them, hoping they'd chase them down, and they were kind of stuck at a pinch point there, but I mean, it's a long way. And so we were chasing the main herd, and it was neat. Like I came over the one hill, and there's like 200-300 elk, like just on this other hill, like 700 yards away, just sort of out of my range.
Wow.
And you can't, you probably hit something if you fired into the crowd, but I'm very specific on what I'm after. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't
injure
want to
things.
just,
and
oh yeah,
just kind of gung ho.
Yeah.
So we seen that, and they went back over the hill again, and I started going over. My miles stayed on the hill, and I started chasing them one more time because that was the last hill, and now they're like, it was neat because when I got like halfway to them, you can see them where they're stuck in the corner, and it just almost looks like moving carpet. There's so many of these giant animals, and they're like waiting because they can only go down this ridge line slowly in single file, and fucking 300 of them have to get down. So I was just going to head over to that herd to go find one of them, and maybe I would have made it and maybe I wouldn't have. But they could always headed back the other way. And then I heard a couple of gunshots go off, and then I looked over to Miles, and he was like waving like this. And I looked north, and then I just seen like 2 kilometers away a line of fucking animals.
2 kilometers away?
Coming towards me, yeah. And then they're a kilometer away, and then they came on my side. I was just leaned up against the fence, and like probably 50 or 60 elk walked by me within 100 yards of me, probably maybe 100 yards tops, 120. Walked by one by one.
One by, still in single file that far? They went kilometers in single file?
At first they were running. So when they came over the first hill, they were running because someone had been shot one or shooting at them farther down. And then they stopped running and started going slow again. Yeah, it was neat. I got to watch the whole like 80 or 60 of them walk right by me.
And then you picked your one?
Then I picked my one. Yeah.
Said a prayer?
My very last.
Thanked it?
The third or fourth last from the last.
Because do they have are the biggest ones following, or is there any order?
Yeah,
random?
No,
is there any
usually
order?
the biggest ones are in the back. Seems to be. Usually the cows are in the front, and then the bigger bucks are in the back.
Huh.
Biggest maybe in the very back. I got the biggest of that herd anyway. He was pretty big. They said it was the biggest one so far.
Really?
When I left the base, yeah. I think there had only been like 20.
It's weird that they're involved. It's weird that it's such a organized
when
program.
you leave, there's a checkpoint at the end. So the fish and wildlife are there, and
So did they get upset because you were late?
no, they were pretty good about it.
that's
They're like,
good.
there's still some people out there.
Oh, okay.
We're
So they
like,
just give you that time to try and get out off base, but if you're late, it's not that.
yeah, I mean, it's big out there and dark, and people could get lost and stuck fucking fast. I mean, you could see how quick. I was so tired from pushing that elk 5 kilometers that I could quickly realize how you could just like pass out in the snow.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys were all burnt pretty bad.
Yeah. And then you just like wait and eating and drinking, but it's just not helping. You're just expending too much energy too quickly trying to push this in a foot of snow, and you're breaking in, and you're up halfway up your shins in fucking snow the whole time. And it was a real fucking struggle.
One of your biggest physical struggles ever, you were saying?
I think it was the hardest I can remember physically, like pushing myself since I first started working the oil rigs.
Wow.
And I shovel mud for like 12 hours straight. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my arms would just be like buzzing almost. It was this weird sort of thing. That's kind of where my fucking hip flexors have been at for the last couple of days. Tweaked.
Wow. So 5K, you drug it out?
5 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was a big one. How heavy? 400 pounds?
I think we had about 400 pounds in the sleigh for the last bit. I carried the head like 3 kilometers on my shoulders, the head and neck. That was probably like, I don't know, 80 pounds, 90 pounds. It's in the garage. I'll show you.
Yeah.
On your way out.
Wow.
Yeah, I did my...
And they asked you to do more? Like, how does that work? They said, can you shoot 4? I mean...
No, they just said take as many as you want.
Oh.
One was good. I'll go back in the early.
So, is there any chance you could get close? You could get one closer.
You could luck out and get one by the road. I mean, if it wouldn't have been so snowy and drifty, this elk would have been like more like 70 yards from the road.
Right.
But he was 70 yards from a road that had a foot of snow on it and a bunch of drifts that were deeper than that. So there was like a 6-foot drift at the start of the road. So there's no way you're getting a truck in there.
Yeah.
You're not allowed.
That's the weather is a big.
So it becomes
factor.
like, is it worth it? Is it worth the effort of dragging that animal back? And I decided, I almost gave up 4 kilometers in, and I decided I got to walk 4 kilometers either way now. It might as well be with an elk.
Yeah.
Go the extra kilometer.
Yeah.
It's still only 1 PM, make a day out of it.
Yeah.
Fucking whatever. Now I feel, at the time I was like, oh my God. But now that it's done, it's like, good, I made the right decision.
Good.
Forced through it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Finished making all my sausages.
Yeah.
You can take some sausage home with you.
Sure. Might as well. I don't want to go to the grocery store right now.
How's Safeway, I wonder?
They're okay. I went without a mask the other night. They didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. But I went at the end of that was the night you were out there.
Oh, where?
Pulling your elk in because I was here recording the show.
By yourself?
Yeah. And I thought, well, I'm going to wait and go late. At least there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah. Nothing said at any time?
No.
Huh. Because it's those are the places that have that like top-down sort of directive on how to deal with it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Shoppers has been okay. Because, well, the reason I know is because I go to that other Shoppers once a week or twice a week to check the mailbox.
Want to hear?
Never has anything in it.
Want to hear one of my favorite Fauci clips?
All right.
And now another edition of Grimerica Goodies by the people, for the people.
Ready?
In all the history of respiratory-borne viruses of any type,
in all the history of respiratory-borne viruses of any type.
So this is High Impact Flicks is actually pre-narrating Fauci's thing to make it get the point across.
asymptomatic transmission has never been the driver of outbreaks.
Asymptomatic transmission has never been the driver of outbreaks.
The driver of outbreaks is always a symptomatic person.
The driver of outbreaks is always a symptomatic person.
An epidemic is not driven by asymptomatic carriers.
An epidemic is not driven by asymptomatic carriers.
Translation, if you're asymptomatic, you're not a threat to anyone. So the question is, why do they want asymptomatic people wearing masks when they are not the driver of outbreaks?
Put on the damn mask. You need to wear a damn mask.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
I think there should be a penalty because you could literally kill someone. You could literally kill someone because you didn't want to wear a mask.
Maybe they don't really care about you. Maybe they just want to control you.
Well said, eh?
What part of that was Fauci?
Well, the second narration on the first 3 or 4 sentences.
Okay.
About the asymptomatic. That was Fauci saying asymptomatic spreading has never been the driver. So, and it's a good point. I often think, why are they pushing the mask so hard? Really, why are they? It's pretty creepy when you start thinking about the deeper question on why are they doing it.
Does anyone check who bought the mask stocks?
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't know. I mean, there's people are wearing freaking cloth masks. They're wearing like their gaiters are wearing. It's just
true.
Put anything over your face.
Just ban the gaiters.
Put anything over your face.
I heard a couple places ban gaiters and bandanas.
Yeah, but most places don't give a shit. They just see something over your face. That's okay. You know, there's something going on with it. It's the dehumanizing, the communication part of it, the constant physical reminder. There's a bunch of reasons. It's like a mass ritual. I mean, I don't want to keep harping on this, but it's just, it's so creepy to me what's happening. And it just, so many people just going along with it without even questioning. And I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying we got to wake people up or anything like that. We're past that point. Now it's planning your.
Now we got to get you an assault rifle.
I don't want an assault rifle. I'm
you
okay.
Just want more arrows?
Well,
I
was supposed to bring arrows by.
Your lack of ability with the bow and arrow hasn't turned you towards firearms
I'm
yet?
good with the bow and arrow.
You didn't even hit the target.
I'm playing VR. I'm playing in VR all the time now.
So you figure next time you go out, you just be splitting?
Yeah, I'm practicing those muscle, the muscle thing.
Why don't you try with the crossbow?
I'm fine without the crossbow too. I'm okay. I can shoot a bow, Darren.
You
I
can't.
was. Yes, I
seen
can.
ya. I watched.
I was
you.
playing around with it.
You're
I was in
faking
my
me.
void.
You're faking me out. So that if we ever get into it, your secret bow skills are a surprise to me. Hey, I'm just saying, you lost 5 arrows in like
No. I found a couple.
minutes.
I found most of them.
You didn't hit the target once. I didn't hit the target either. I'm pretty good with the crossbow, but
I was too
bow
far
bow
away.
is a
I was
different
starting too far away. Plus, the thing's not. I'm not going to make excuses,
story. No.
but it's not measured for me. It's not my. I can't even see through the things. It's too big for me. It's like a 6-foot guy was using that.
There'll be a bow stuck in a mailbox across the street from your house, and then they'll find you stabbed up in the fucking porch.
And I got to figure out how your buddy taught me to see through both eyes when you're looking through the sight, because I can't blink my left eye.
Can't you just close one?
No, I can't blink my left eye. So when I lean in, because I'm right-handed,
Sounds like a fake thing.
it's not a fake thing, dude.
Okay, I gotta wrap this up.
Okay, hang on. So we were on a couple shows. We're going on a couple other ones too. Got to talk to you about that. Idiocalypse with Mark Steves, who is the Wayward Intellect. He's the one that was helping Sam Tripoli book for Rockfin and some of Sam's other shows. And he's got his own podcast now. My family thinks I'm crazy. He's a good dude, and the Idiocalypse guys are awesome too. Cheney and Jonathan. Awesome show. So I'm going to put links to the show notes and all that. I want to make sure I mention
Give him a
that.
shout out.
Yeah.
Support the show.
Should I do a quick quote? Just
Yeah, make it snappy. I'm not going to play the jingle. I'll go pick up my kids and then take them for ice cream.
Yeah.
They're at a gathering. Don't tell anyone.
What? Okay, you're going to have to guess this guy.
Okay.
You might be able to.
George Soros.
Why? Washington. This is from the Octopus of Global Control. Washington politicians basically view the people as a capricious and dangerous enemy, a dumb mob whose only interesting quality happens to be their power to take away politicians' jobs. When the government sees its people as the enemy, sooner or later that feeling gets to be mutual, and that's when the real weirdness begins. How appropriate.
Dave McGowan.
Good guess. I don't know if Dave's in this book, but Matt Taibbi.
He should be.
The Great Derangement, a terrifying true story of war, politics, and religion at the twilight of the American Empire.
If there's no quotes by Dave McGowan in that book, then I'm going to have a little chat with Charlie Robinson next time we talk to him. All right, support the show. Grimerica.ca/support in these troubled times.
Get your mask. We should probably push that a little bit more.
Yeah, all these mask mandates, you might as well go to grimerica.ca/swag. We got some good vibe masks. We got some bullshit masks. We got some placebo masks. We got, however you feel about this shit, you can spread that word with your mask if you feel that way. I mean, just because we don't agree with masks doesn't mean we're not going to sell them. If you have to wear them, you might as well wear a Grimerica mask, I guess. If you don't want to wear a mask, I'm cooler with that. You get shirts and shit there too, stickers. I think we're going to look to making the "We Do Not Snitch on Our Neighbors" sticker as a sticker available, so people could stick it on their windows if they want.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Are you want me to print one for you?
I want some big ones for my upstairs windows. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to set the tone for the neighborhood this week.
Pushing back. And a big happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans down there.
Oh yeah, enjoy your friends and family. Don't let the government stop you from enjoying each other.
Make sure you go to the liquor store before they close.
Are they closing them?
They're closing them early, like a day early. That's crazy. I know. It's
support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. We love you. We need you. We can't do this without you. And we need your support. If you're getting some value from the show, you're the only value we get back this way. Grimerica.ca/support. If you can sign up for a monthly. Hey, if you're one of those people on the Stripe subscription, you might just have to try that shit again or double check it or let me know what's going on. I know a ton of people are having trouble with them. The Stripe's down 75%. I've got a couple emails from people saying they don't know why it's not working. I can't do anything on my end. It might be best to just head back to fucking PayPal. I don't know, but I'm not having good luck with the strike these days. Sometimes it works great, but a lot of the subscriptions are having trouble maintaining.
Yeah, we got a P.O. box too for books with green stuff in between and
all that great stuff. Totally. Grimerica.csi support. We love you. Couldn't do without you. We'll be back a couple days with another fabulous show. Enjoy this chat with the wonderful Ryan Merkle.
All right, we've got Ryan Merkle with us tonight talking about the quadrant model of reality. He's done a ton of work on that, quadrantmodel.com. I think he's pretty much got it into a book as well, but the website is loaded with information from science, religion, art, philosophy, history, how patterns of four reflect the fundamental form of being. So, we'll explore this topic. Ryan, we like to explore different models of reality, so thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, I saw you guys have a lot of interesting discussions with people, a lot of fascinating topics. And I think that this is kind of a mind-bending theory. It's kind of a paradigm shattering of the way that people are going to relate to existence. It essentially describes that our reality is structured around a fourfold pattern, 3+1 pattern, and I'll kind of give some details about how that pattern expresses itself. The way that I discovered the theory was my freshman year of college. Actually, it was my sophomore year of college. My grandpa was telling me about a personality model in psychology, where he said there were 4 types of people: thinking-oriented people, emotional people, doers, and dreamers. It's a relative dominant model, and what that means is that if you're an emotional person, of course you're going to think, you're going to do things, you're going to be a dreamer as well, but you're going to be dominantly emotional. That's going to be your primary mode of being. And I was contemplating this model, and I was thinking that dreaming just doesn't seem to fit with the other 3. My grandpa said he thought that I was a dreamer, but I was thinking that the model would be better if there was just 3 types of people: thinking people, emotional people, and doing people, because dreaming kind of has a quality to it that it seems kind of ethereal. It seems like it doesn't belong. So I was just trying to figure this out. Why is there 4 types, not 3 types? So then one night I was reading the Bible, and this is a kind of a strange coincidence. I was on the chapter where Jesus was crucified. I was on the page where he was crucified, and I never really read the Bible before. This was my first time really getting into the Bible, and I was reading it, and I drew within the Bible. I still have the Bible at my grandma's house, this Bible, but I drew in it the quadrant and the 4 types of people. And I was just thinking about it. I was wondering, okay, and I just had the realization, okay, thinking and emotion, that's a duality. Our thoughts affect emotions. Emotions influence thoughts. Then we have emotions. This influences us to do things. The root word in emotion is motor. You see emote. It means to bring, to do. It brings you to move. So emotions bring you to move. So our emotions facilitate movement, and then we move, we do things, and this is going to influence our thoughts. Sometimes we think first and then we do things. Sometimes we do things and then think about it afterwards. Interestingly, I studied this a while ago, but there's been brain studies that show that people will do things, and then the part of the brain responsible for triggering them to perform the action lights up afterwards. So these three are all very intertwined.
I think I've heard that like in like one-on-one sports, the person who's reacting, you can react quicker than you can act.
What then?
You
Act?
just-
You mean
yeah.
think? You mean think?
Well, just like say like if someone was say attacking someone in a boxing match or with a sword or a nunchuck or a stick, like if they're like both good, if you're both really good, the guy who's getting attacked will always be quicker than the guy who's attacking, because the guy who's attacking has to think about it. And the guy who's not doesn't think about it. He just sort of,
Unless you're in the flow state and it comes naturally. I mean, that's what the sport example is prevalent for that, because you do things, if you've got enough practice at it, I think your subconscious mind takes over, which is what you were kind of getting at with the doing without thinking. It's like, I think that's when you tap into that flow state or that subconscious mind where you do it automatically without thinking.
which, yeah, that reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to some audiobooks on this stuff, and my brain's been kind of everywhere because I've been kind of stressed about the coronavirus and stressed about a lot of things. But I wish I was paying more if I was more focused. But I was just listening to this one audiobook where they were describing how when a professional pitcher throws the ball, it goes so fast.
Oh yeah.
That actually there's no possible way that the person can, with how fast light moves, that he can process where the ball is going to be. It is completely automatic, and he's not somehow he's doing it, but it's definitely not calculated.
Yeah. It's more of like an instinct or like is that Blink? Is that Malcolm Gladwell's Blink book? Do you know? I've read that. I've read that somewhere too about that.
But yeah, that is kind of it's a little bit off topic, that one example, but I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, so we do things and this affects our thoughts, and then our thoughts are influencing our emotions. This is a triad. We have a trinity. And then this is a big realization I had. Earlier that week, I was in a psychology class. I was at UCSD. I ended up being a psychology major. I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. But the professor was describing that when we dream, we have emotions, we have thoughts, and we do things. But we're disconnected from our body. We're paralyzed. So we don't physically act out the dream. Well, we know that there actually is sometimes when you do physically act out the dream, that's a sleepwalking. But for the most case, and that's actually the third stage of dreaming. There's 4 stages of dreaming. And sometimes in the third stage of dream, you'll act it out. But for the most part, you're paralyzed during your dreams. So you're not going to be performing any actions. And so I thought, yeah, so we're doing things in our dreams, but we're doing it in the dream world. We're doing it with the dream body. And it's kind of a hallucination. It's not real. It's fascinating that when you dream, you actually have sensations and perceptions. The parts of your brain that are responsible for sensations and perceptions are activated, but you're obviously not seeing anything. It's just hallucinations within the mind. And but so I thought, okay, we're doing things in our dreams. We're having thoughts. We're having emotions, but we're doing it all in this dream world, in this non-physical, non-material, non-phenomenal, transcending phenomena of existence. It's in this kind of transcendental realm. So I thought, okay, the fourth is different. It transcends the first 3, but it also contains them. And that was a big revelation I had. And that was kind of the genesis of the quadrant model, because then I started thinking of more examples. And just earlier that week, I had been studying a physics course where they described the 4 forces of physics. And they said and the professor was describing how gravity is different than the first 3, and it doesn't fit with them, that they can't incorporate gravity with the strong force, the weak force, and electromagnetism. So gravity is kind of the recalcitrant, defiant 4th aspect that doesn't belong. And then I was thinking of other examples, and I just thought of a lot of examples all at once.
Wow.
And I thought, I knew I discovered the theory of everything right away. And then the next day I go to my biology class. The teacher's drawing up Punnett squares, which are quadrants, dihybrid crosses, and using a dihybrid cross Punnett square, you're going to have three. For instance, in peas, when Mendel was performing his pea experiments, you would have three peas that are green, or that are smooth, and then the fourth pea will be rough, because there's a 3+1 ratio that usually comes out of these dihybrid crosses when you mix pea plants, and the way that Mendel would write these out was through quadrants. So I went to my biology class. They're drawing up quadrants. They're talking about just the next week we were supposed to have our finals or our midterms. So we were going over a lot of stuff, and he's talking about we have the four elements make up our body: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Nitrogen would be the different one because carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, those make up carbohydrates. If you think about carbohydrates, carbon, high, that's hydrogen. Hydrates is oxygen. It's hydrogen and oxygen make up water, and that's a hydrate. So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, that's a trinity. That's the triad. That are very similar. But then the nitrogen aspect, there's a lot smaller percentage of what life is made up of is nitrogen. But those make up about 99.5 or more percent of all chemistry of living organisms.
Can we back up a bit to the synchronicity in a way, or because would you consider that a download almost, or was there any other connection to you reading that part about Jesus being crucified? Like, was it something about the cross the quadrants, or because I mean, we've had numerous guests, authors, people like yourself that do this amazing amount of research, almost like a download in a way, and they've had it from synchronistic moments. Like the start of it is usually very synchronistic or mystical, or it's just beyond trudging along some sort of path of research that they're not interested in,
like channeling almost.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that reality is it's not naturalistic, like the naturalistic explanations of existence. The way that existence actually is, it kind of defies logic. And with all my research, it's pretty apparent that we're living in a reality that is not built around rational naturalistic principles, and that there is a lot of I've experienced a lot of synchronicities, and kind of ones that would kind of blow your mind. But in this case, that was definitely a synchronicity. And the fact that I was reading the chapter where Jesus was crucified, and that's what also I forgot to mention, that when I realized that the nature of the four parts and how they're related, I thought about Jesus on the cross, and I thought, that's why the cross is such a powerful symbol, because it's a form of existence. And then I went to my biology class, and then I just continued to go to class after class after that. I would wake up pretty much 8 o'clock every morning and go to every single class at UCSD all day, every day for the next 4 years. And basically I just accumulated a huge amount of evidence for this theory.
I like it's interesting that the nitrogen would be almost like aligned with the dreaming and like in the percentage of your experience, the nitrogen is to the human body what dreaming is to the human experience compared to the other three.
Yeah, the idea with the quadrant model is, and it's related to Plato. So Plato said that our world is a reflection of the world of the forms. So the thing with the quadrant model, this is the big idea behind it, is that there's a unity behind everything, behind all of the various phenomena, behind all of all these different aspects of existence. There's one underlying unifying principle. And it kind of gives credence to that idea that when the mystics and philosophers, they describe everything as one, this kind of establishes that in a systematic framework that, everything is one. Everything's one in that it's all based around interrelationships and reflections of this pattern. So there is differentiations. There's various different gradations of existence, different phenomena, things that are they're separate things, but they're all connected in that they're kind of a reflection of this pattern.
And the fourth is usually, like you were mentioning about nitrogen and the dreaming aspect, it's usually different than the other three, right? Or there's something encompassing about it, or how would you describe that part of it?
The first quadrant is always more mental. So if you think about thinking, it's mental and it's non-physical. So we're going to see relationships between the different quadrants, and this is how they're going to express themselves in reality and ubiquitously. So the first one is less physical. And if you want to think about it in terms of the four elements, the first one is the air element. And when you think about thoughts, people describe them as very physical because they're related to neurons and action potentials firing. But then also people say that there is a non-physical aspect of thoughts, and it has that quality to it, the non-physical quality. For instance, in the OR model, people try to Hammerhoff, I think is his name, and Penrose, they try to relate thoughts to quantum mechanics and the microtubules and quantum mechanical processes. Kind of has a connotation of being less physical. The second quadrant is always an intermediate between physical and non-physical. So that would be water. And it's more related to homeostasis and maintenance and order. And
emotions, do they fit in there?
And structure, and that's the emotion one.
Yeah.
So emotions are very community based, very social. When we express emotions, a lot of what emotions are designed to do is to manipulate people and to express and to form social relationships and to kind of communicate amongst others. So the first quadrant is more of an individual, like a loner. If you want to think about it, I'm going to get to the personality types eventually after this, but the first quadrant would be the idealist personality type. And the idealist personality type is kind of weird, very intelligent, but doesn't really belong because they're intuitive feelers. So they're intuitive, so they're mental, they're very cerebral, but they're feelers, so they want to belong, they want social harmony. But the thing about them is they're weird because they are feelers, and they're not cool. They're not doers. They're not action oriented. They're the mental aspect. So they don't belong. But then the second quadrant, that is the belonging quadrant. The first quadrant is sensation, perception, response, and awareness. That's the mental, and that's like Buddhism, mindfulness. But then the second quadrant is belief, faith, behavior, belonging, and that's homeostasis. That's community. That's more social. And really, what beliefs are kind of mental content that we consolidate. That comes from our sensations, perceptions, responses, awareness. We have empirical. We experience reality empirically, and then we form beliefs. So the first quadrant and the second quadrant are forming each other. The first quadrant, sensation, perception, response, awareness. The second quadrant is belief, faith, behavior, belonging. But then also our beliefs are going to affect what we sense and perceive. So they're both influencing each other and they're shaping each other. But the second quadrant is more homeostasis. And again, if you want to look at it in terms of the four elements, the second quadrant is water. It's not physical, but it's also not ethereal, mental. It's kind of in that middle state. And then we have the third quadrant, which is always the most physical.
Grounding, like Earth?
Yeah, that's the Earth quadrant. And the thing about the first two quadrants is, in terms of the personality types, I discussed the first quadrant personality type is idealist personality. They're feelers. They're very social. And what they want to do is they want to create social harmony, and they listen to authority. So what air does is it conforms to its environment. This is what Plato described, or this is what Aristotle said. He said that what air does is it conforms to its environment in that it takes the form of its container, but it also rises. So what he says is it's hot and wet. Wet things fill the container, and hot things rise. But then he said that water is cold and wet. Wet things fill the container, but they sink. So cold, when you think of cold, think of more grounded. Hot is the mental, is abstract consciousness. We're elevating, we're getting into deep principles when we're this is the intuitive. And then the feeling orientation, that is filling the container. So guardians are also they have higher levels of feeling function. They're more feeling oriented, and they're very concerned with belonging and listening to authority, belief, faith, behavior, belonging. But then the third quadrant, now we're in the artisan personality type, and this is the earth element, and this is the thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming quadrant. And this is the most physical quadrant. So I was describing how thinking is very physical, emotions based around hormones in the amygdala and its relationship to the hippocampus, and it's centered around the neurotransmitter firing. So emotions are very physical as well. But then the most physical is the third quadrant of the third quadrant, thinking, emotion, doing. Doing is pure physical, pure action. And it's deliberate action, usually designed to accomplish a goal. Whereas when we think of sensation, perception, response, and awareness, response is action, but it's being informed by the environment. It's you're
reaction in a way.
It's kind of a reaction to your environment, and it's not necessarily volitional. It's automatic. But belief, faith, behavior, belonging, behavior is being shaped by your group. It's not necessarily you doing it to accomplish a goal. And it's also behavior is also patterned action. So in terms of, think about Watson or Skinner with behaviorism, or what he would do is he would get a dog and he would ring a bell, and then he would pair the stimulus of the bell with food. And then so after doing this enough times, and then he would give the dog the food. And then after doing this enough times, the dog, every time he would do this, the dog would salivate. So then eventually all he would have to do is ring the bell, and he wouldn't give any food, but the dog would automatically salivate. This is a behavior, because once the stimulus response pattern has occurred enough times, it becomes ingrained and it becomes a behavior. So behaviors, once we do something enough times, then they become patterned actions. But it's not necessarily deliberate, and it's not coming from inside of you where you're trying to accomplish anything. It's more automatic, and also it's behaviors have the connotation of being more based around the desire for conformity. So people behave in accordance to the group, and they behave in relationship to what people are telling them to do. But doing, now we're doing something to accomplish goals. This is more internal. Intentional. Yeah, that's a word. So thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming. This is the most physical, but this is the third quadrant. We're in the third quadrant now. Now we're this is solid. This is earth. And if you want to look at the interrelationships between the quadrants, the first quadrant was air, and it's ethereal. It's non-material. Well, the third quadrant is very material. So these are opposites. And this is the difference between the NF personality type, which is intuitive feeler, and the SP personality type, which is the sensory perceptive. A sensory person is more grounded. He's looking at data, and he's more in touch with the physical material world. So he's cool. He's grounded. He fits in more, because an intuitive person is more in the abstract realms. He's no earthly good. That's the saying. He's so heavenly minded. He's no earthly good. So an intuitive person is thinking abstractly, and he's thinking about principles, and he's looking at patterns. Whereas a sensory person's more looking at details, and he's not making connections and not looking for general patterns. And then a P is a perceptive person, is somebody who is very spontaneous. So he's a doer. He's action oriented. That's the way. That's the SP. This is a third quadrant personality type. The first quadrant personality type is the idealist. The second quadrant is the guardian. The third quadrant is the artisan, the doer. Think about the term artisan. That means, an artisan is somebody who's a performer, somebody who's an artist. And then we have the fourth quadrant, and this is going to be associated with the fire element, because this is now we're in the transcendent realm. We're moving into the divine. The third quadrant is ego oriented, and also the third quadrant always has a connotation of being bad, because think about the how people feel about the ego. People usually describe it as negative, and it's goal oriented. So when you think about dreaming, the connotation of dreaming is desire to accomplish goals, to achieve goals. Those are your dreams. Thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming is a third quadrant. But then when we get to the fourth quadrant, we're in contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. This is the fire element, and this is the NT personality type. The N is the intuitive type of person, and the T is a thinker. The NT personality type, the second quadrant is opposite of the fourth quadrant. These are antagonistic. They're antithetical to each other. The SJ personality type, they're the belongers. They want to fit in, and they're very grounded. They're homeostasis or maintenance. But when we get in the fourth quadrant, we're getting into death. And this is transcendence of the body, the ego body, which is death. And that's when we're getting into contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. Because when you contemplate, now you're completely immersed in something, completely focused. When you're passionate, it's like an intense emotion, and it's intense focus where you're a part of something greater than yourself, and you lose yourself. You're kind of transcending the ego body. And then flowing is automatic, and you're not doing it. It's almost like a higher harmony, like a higher force is doing it. And then knowledge, if you look at my video, you have to look at the Quadrant Model of Reality video. Knowledge has a lot of significance related to death.
And fire's different as far as the elements go, right? Like you describe it in your book, it's more of an what would you say, active compared to a passive element, or?
So according to Aristotle, fire is hot and dry, and earth is cold and dry. So again, cold things, they sink, so they're grounded. That's a sensory, but it's dry in that it maintains its form, and it's an individual. So the first two quadrants, they're wet. They don't maintain their form. They adhere to their containers. They're being shaped by their surroundings. But when you get to the dry, now a dry person or the dry element is consolidated. It's an individual. It's doing its own thing. It's not being shaped by its surroundings or by its environment. And that's the same. That's the earth element, and then that's the fire element. The fire element is rising, so it's abstract consciousness, intuitive, but it's also an individual. It's a thinking-oriented person. It's not a feeling-oriented person. Feeling-oriented persons want social harmony. Thinking-oriented people, they want to do what works, and they don't necessarily care if it's not fitting into the norms of society or making people happy. So they're not worried about filling the container. They're the individual. They're solid.
That's a good summary. That's a good example, because I was reading your summaries on your website and your book, and on all the examples, and going back to some of the old religions and the esoteric things. I mean, it goes all the way through science and religion and philosophy and mythology. But that kind of summarizes each of them and how they're similar. Each of the quadrants.
Each of the quadrants are connected. There's a continuity, but then there's also disparity. So they're all interconnected, but then there's differentiation.
Yeah.
And each quadrant has certain represents these four qualities.
Yeah. Do you have a question about that, Darren? Or?
I think I was an INFP.
Oh, were you?
If I remember correctly. Yeah. Which quadrant would that put me in?
So that you would be the fourth quadrant of the first quadrant. That's what my grandpa is. He's an INFP.
The fourth of the first? That sounds like my regiment.
So that means that you're like the fire element of the air element.
Oh, geez. Does that mean I'm like an airhead?
Yeah,
Fiery airhead.
you're very mental. You're very intelligent, and you're very into esoteric, like mystical types of things. But at the same time, you're like irrational. You're like the fourth quadrant, where you're not super inclined or disposed to filling your environment. So you wouldn't mind stepping on people's toes and doing your own thing, but at the same time, you are still feeling oriented. You still have a higher feeling oriented function.
Oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Especially the last couple months.
I feel. That's just society has changed and I just stayed the same. That's all that's happened in the last couple of months. No.
So is this the meme? Like we see this quadrant meme going around quite a bit, actually, as far as the personality types, and they have different personalities over there. Or they show where things are, and I guess that the same thing. That's the same thing you're talking about, then, right? And I mean, I've only seen that the last couple of years, but you've been studying this for
like 10 years.
Almost, yeah.
So this is a dominant way that people organize personalities through quadrants.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is the archetype of existence.
Right.
This is the
it's
form
beyond all that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Existence is everything is being transposed through this form. Like this form is how existence is manifesting or expressing itself in all domains and in all capacities. I'm talking about science, religion, art, and philosophy.
Is there a power? Like why is that? It's the fundamental. You think it's the fundamental sort of reality? Why is that? Is there an energy there? Is it because we talked about some of the other numerological things, and you made the great point where is that just our solar system? Like, does it change when you go to like Andromeda or something?
Oh,
like
that
right?
was when I was talking about like those, not the numerology, more like the numbers that are baked into reality, like the Fibonacci sequence, or pi, or like those sort of
the sacred
and they always
geometrical
seem
stuff.
to be these weird irrational numbers. Like it seems like the building blocks of the universe are fucking never ending, and I wonder if the never ending building blocks of the universe are the same in every galaxy, or if they would change based on the.
Yeah, because the quadrant theory, because we're in a certain type of solar system or galaxy, or is it universal?
I think that all of existence is kind of a reflection of this pattern. So if you want to, look at the galaxies, like the Andromeda galaxy. The way that you could see this pattern through that would be just, for instance, take Mark's multiverse theory. He says there's 4 levels of universes, and in terms of the galaxies, there's 4 main categories of galaxies, like the elliptical, the spiral, the barred spiral, and the irregular.
Right.
And then,
so you're seeing a pattern in the types of galaxies, even.
Yeah.
The 4, are you trying to apply the quadrant model to the types of galaxies then?
Yeah.
Or like maybe the different sacred geometrical, inherent shapes in nature or whatever, maybe fall into that as well.
Like all the zoids, all those different.
No, I'm thinking more like Fibonacci and the
irrational numbers.
Because that correlates to the type of galaxy, like the spiral galaxy, probably.
Well, I'll give you some cool examples with the galaxies. But one thing with the Fibonacci sequence is the elemental aspect of it is a cross, where it when it begins, it takes the form of a cross. It's hard to explain, but in terms of the galaxies, just one example of it would be there's an area of the universe known as a Seyfert sextet. There are really only 4 galaxies engaged in particular cosmic turf war. First spotted by astronomer Carl Keenan Seyfert, these tightly packed galaxies represent the most compact group ever discovered. So there's a Seyfert sextet, but then that's one of the most famous groups of galaxies. But then there's also a quartet. The quartet's the most famous one, probably. And then there's also a quintet of galaxies. But once again, we talked about this. I just mentioned the Seyfert sextet is actually really a group of 4. It's like a 4 plus 2. In the quintet of galaxies, it's also the same type of thing where it looks like there's 5 galaxies together, but really it's 4 galaxies. And then there's a 5th one way super far out. That's not even really a part of them, but it just looks like it's a part of them from our perspective. So what the quadrant model kind of states is that the more you probe existence, it's just reiterations of the domination of this quadrant, of this fourfold of the quadrant pattern. So it says the sextet actually only contains only interacting galaxy, 4 interacting galaxies though. So it's called a sextet. That means 6, but it's really only 4. Let me look up the quintet, what it's called. There's a Stephan's quintet of galaxies, but that again is only really 4. It's really only a quartet. See, it says Stephan's quintet is a visual grouping of 5 galaxies, of which 4 form the first compact galaxy group ever discovered.
So are those younger galaxies or older galaxies? Like, are they staying in that group of 4 and then spreading out, and like that's how galaxies start, or is that just a weird phenomenon? Or are we thinking that if we could look at it from the right angle, all galaxies are part of a group of 4?
Well, these are the most famous groupings of galaxies. It's this the Seyfert sextet, the Stephan's quartet, or actually no, the Seyfert sextet, the Stephan's quintet. I'm gonna look up what the name of the quartet is. 1 second. And the Roberts quartet of galaxies. Those are really the most famous groupings of galaxies that there are. I mean, I looked up the formations of galaxies, and those are the ones. If you watch any physics course on astronomy, they're going to discuss these 3, and really they're all just really groups of 4 galaxies. And it makes me think of the Book of Revelations, where you have like they'll have 7 trumpets, but really it's always a 4 plus 3, where the first 4 trumpets are similar, and then there's a space or there's a new chapter, and then they discuss the next 3. The 4 always establishes itself as dominant, and that's what, for whatever reason, that's what existence is. But what I think it is it's what Plato said. Plato said that everything is a reflection of one form, but he didn't specify exactly what that form was, although he gave a lot of hints. One hint that he gave was he said that our universe, that the soul of our universe is the form of a chiasm. Chiasm is a cross, it's an X. And even the original Christians, they said, yeah, what he was alluding to was Jesus on the cross. And then Proclus, for instance, when Proclus was studying Plato's works, he noticed that in one of Plato's dialogues with Socrates says, 1, 2, 3, where's the 4th? He saw 3 of his friends, but he didn't know where his 4th friend was. His 4th friend had left that day. And according to Proclus said that Plato was just speaking in code, and he was alluding to the tetrachus. And the tetrachus is a formation of 4 rows of dots, 1 dot at the top, 2 rows below that, 3 below that, and then 4, making 10 in all, and then 4 dots. And what's fascinating is if you look at the dollar bill, there's a tetrachus in the form of a Star of David, but it's two tetrachus overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the Great Seal of the United States also has a tetrachus on it. But what Proclus said was that Plato was referring to the tetrachus, and according to the Pythagoreans, the tetrachus was the supreme form of existence. They said that everything flows from the tetrachus, and to become a Pythagorean, the first thing you had to do was you had to swear an oath to the tetrachus.
Wow.
And then Pythagoras,
wasn't that 2 tetractys together was the as above, so below, wasn't it? As well?
Yeah, that's a Hermetic idea, and that's basically what Plato's saying is that.
I find that fascinating that this goes down back to like thousands of years ago.
Well, the Greek cross is like all equal to like a quadrant.
Yeah, the Greek cross is a quadrant, and then there's the Latin cross, which has a more extended lower aspect, but it's still a quadrant.
Is there significance to the extended lower aspect?
This is really interesting. I'm going to mention. I'll mention this in 1 second, but let me just point out too Pythagoras. So Pythagoras, he talks about the tetrachus as being the supreme form of existence, and the interesting thing too is we're going back to Plato. Is Plato it's called Plato's lambda, and Plato said that there were two groups of four numbers that created our existence. And the way that he described them, he depicted them, was in the form of a tetrachus. And they were the numbers 8, 4, 2, 1, 3, 9, and 27, with the number 1 being the top number of the tetrachus. And then the other ones go down and they form a triangle. Mm-hmm. And then people fill in the numbers between them, and they make tetrachus, and they make significant patterns with those numbers. But he said that that's what existence was built around, these two groups of four numbers. He called them the two tetrachus. And then what's interesting about that is is that the Hindus, they say at the beginning of existence was two quadruple expansions of Krishna, two groups of four. Now the Valentinian Gnostics, they said at the beginning of existence was two tetrads of gods, two groups of four. So they're all saying the same thing. But in this one, it says Pythagoras related the tetrachus to the harmonious musical scales. So the ratios of the octave are 1, 2. The fifth is 2, 3. And the fourth is 3, 4. The musical intervals the Pythagoreans saw as built around the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we know that the Pythagoreans were very enamored by music. And then one more aspect of Pythagoras. And then what was I going to tell you? You asked me, about the Latin cross. I'll get to that in 1 second. But there's a legend there's a legend of the four hammers with Pythagoras, where this is how he discovered these four intervals of music, and he did it by using four hammers.
Into the wall, right? Wasn't he pinning something to the wall, I think?
So the four hammers, let me look it
it's interesting. Plato was enamored by the music too, with the sacred, like there was a sacredness to the music and the frequency.
So it says the four Pythagorean hammers. According to the legend, Pythagoras discovered the foundations of musical tuning by listening to the sounds of four blacksmiths' hammers, which produced consonance and dissonance when they were struck simultaneously.
Didn't that fucking vortex math shit end up making a cross somehow?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's what is that called when the sounds making forms?
Resonance.
Cymatics.
Yeah, cymatics. How do you spell it though?
CY.
MAT.
Yeah, cymatics. Yeah, sometimes there's one ratio. It's called the descending fourth, I think, that makes a cross. And interestingly, that sound is the same sound as a fire. There's a fire truck and a police car. When its siren is going off, that's the descending fourth sound, and that sound makes a cross in cymatics.
I'm wondering if, because there's that vortex math, does the crazy stuff. It had all the numbers around a 3, 6, 9, and it was zigzagging around. But I thought it ended up making a cross in there. I could be totally wrong about that. Have you done much vortex math or looked into that at all?
Yeah, if you find that, please send it to me. But I think that I know what you're talking about. I know that. Yeah, you find the cross really expresses itself dominantly everywhere. It's unfathomable, like it's unbelievable how this happens, but it's definitely not natural. But I think that,
and it was prevalent before the crucifixion, before Christ. I mean, it goes way back, the cross, right?
Yeah, they have a book called The 16 Crucified Saviors, where they describe that. I mean, just look at Tertullian. Tertullian was one of the original Christians, and he talked about that all of these ancient gods were depicted in cruciform. So when he was looking at even the goddesses, most of them were depicted arms extended in cruciform formation. And he didn't say that detracted from Christianity. Of course, he's going to view it through his belief system, which is that Jesus and the cross is the paramount, most important thing. But the point is that the cruciform, the cross, has always been the dominant symbol in every religion.
Yeah.
If you check out our episode number 392 with Randy Powell, we talk about vortex math. Now, I know in vortex math, the numbers 3, 6, and 9 were important.
Yeah, and what's his name? Tesla apparently said something about if you understand the numbers 3, 6, and 9, then you understand all of existence or something.
Yeah.
And what the way that I would relate that to the cross, and I've looked this up, and there's a lot of people who have the same type of viewpoint, is that the 3, if you look at a clock, the 3 is the right extension of the cross. The 6 is the lower extension. The 9 is the third part, and the fourth part would be up here. So it's still the 4. Those are just the 3 spokes of the cross, and the fourth part is just missing. But that's how some people relate it to the cross.
Well, and then the fourth part could also be like, it could be if it's following the pattern of like the nitrogen and the dreaming, it could be more metaphysical or something too, or like a miss, like a 1, 2, 2, the space between numbers or something.
Yeah, I have all this stuff on. If you go to my Facebook page, go to Ryan Merkle Facebook page, and just go through all my pages. So if you go to the math section or the physics section, you search through it, you're going to find that stuff on the 3, 6, 9. And I just can't remember all this stuff because it's
the pages. The page is amazing.
Yeah.
Is it what's the URL?
Well, the quadrantmodel.com is there, but and then I'll link to your Facebook page.
It'll all
as
be
well.
in the show notes.
Yeah.
But in terms of the Latin cross, you're gonna find this interesting. But I just want to mention one more thing too that I think a lot of people are gonna like is we hear a lot about Tesla because I mentioned Tesla. A lot of people like him a lot. Well, people know him for alternating current, discovering alternating current.
That's right.
There's direct current and there's alternating current. But actually, there's a book called The 4 Quadrants of Electricity by Eric Dollard. And he describes that those aren't the only 2 types of current. There's 4 types of current. There's continuous, there's DC, continuous current, AC, alternating current, IC, impulse current, and OC, oscillating current. So there's actually 4 types.
Interesting.
How come we haven't had him on the show yet?
We tried years ago. We
said no?
No. We just it never happened.
Yeah.
We looked into it years ago, and yeah.
All right, Latin cross.
Oh wait, you mean Eric Dollard?
Yeah.
So in terms of the Latin cross, this is pretty cool. Another kind of synchronicity. I mean, it's like reality's a dream. So I was walking with my grandpa in Kauai in the 9th grade. And this was the first time I had ever had a philosophical conversation with my grandpa. He lived in Kauai. I lived in Los Angeles. And we were walking on the beach, and because he lived in Kauai and he had a bed and breakfast there. He owned a bed and breakfast there. My grandma bought it. And so it was called Gloria's Bed and Breakfast, and it was at Spouting Horn in I forget where's Spouting Horn located. 1 second.
Like what area of Kauai?
Yeah.
Where's Kauai?
It's in Hawaii.
Oh, it's in Hawaii.
It's in Poetic. It's one of the islands of Kauai. But I was walking with my grandpa, and then we were just talking about philosophy. It's the first time I ever had a philosophical conversation with him, and he was telling me that he was telling me about the flow, because I asked him what is love, and my grandpa said he thinks that love is the flow, and that's the oneness consciousness. And then he told me that there was, 4 levels of consciousness, right? And then he said that the first level of consciousness was kind of the instinctual. The second level was magical. Third level was more like rational, and the fourth level was the trans-rational consciousness. And this was based off of I think it was Wilbur's work or one of those guys' works. And then I asked, and then we continued to walk, and then I asked my grandpa. I said, well, just a week previous to this, I was playing with the P. Miller Ballers. This is Master P's basketball team. This is the best basketball team in the country. We had a few players who play in the NBA now on the team. Like one of them is DeMar DeRozan, was Olympic player. And Master P was a coach. Lil Romeo was a famous rapper. He was on the team. And I just gotten back from playing with them. I'm kind of bragging about that right now because I didn't need to put that in the story. But then when I got back, I had a choice. I could either go with them to play in another tournament, or I could go to Kauai and visit my grandpa. And I decided to go to Kauai and visit my grandpa instead. And so, but when I was before I went to visit my grandpa, I was looking at a cross in my neighborhood. Like this was right near my neighborhood, off the street, going toward my house. And I remember I was just like staring at it, and I was entranced by the cross. Like it was kind of like a mystical type of thing. And I was thinking to myself, when I get older, I'm gonna become religious, because I had never done anything religious in my life. And I thought to myself, like, there has to be something to this. Like there must be some sort of reason why all these people, go to these churches and stuff. So then I was walking with my grandpa. We were in Kauai, and then I asked my grandpa, "Do you think that the reason why the cross has the long lower part is because it represents the 4 levels of being, where the first level would be the lower aspect, the third level would be the middle part, and then and I said, like, maybe right now we're at the third level of consciousness, and then eventually we'll get to the 4th level, and that's when the cross will become a T." So I asked my grandpa that. This was in 9th grade. So this kind of crazy. I already was like at it at the 9th grade, almost discovered it, the quadrant model. And then, like I said, my sophomore year of college, that's when I discovered it.
What did he say to you?
Yeah, my grandpa said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." He was like, "Yeah," he was like, "Yeah, I was thinking that too." So.
So would the T be when you like ascend then?
Yeah, that's the idea. The T would be the transrational, transpersonal consciousness. That's that 4th level. But you see, that's the way that I looked at it back then. But then when I was a sophomore in college, that's when I recognized the 4 parts of the cross are the 4 squares of the quadrant. Also, one book that I read, I didn't read any books for fun growing up. I only read books that were necessary for my classes. I went to Harvard Westlake, so it was kind of it's supposed to be one of the more rigorous schools. Like there's a lot of work there. It's supposed to be one of the higher level schools that people can go to. People say it's harder to get into Harvard Westlake than it is to get into like Harvard College, but or most, like probably any college in the United States. But I only read one book for fun other than schools that I had to read at that school. And that was Ken Wilber's Theory of Everything. And that was because my grandpa had that book, and I looked at it, and I liked the title Theory of Everything, so I read it. And Ken Wilber in that book. So I had all this stuff that kind of like, it's like synchronistic. All of it went together. So I read that one book. The only other book I read was like The Pickup Artist by Mystery, because I wanted to know how to pick up girls. So I only read that Pickup Artist and this book, Ken Wilber, Theory of Everything. And the Ken Wilber's in that book, he calls it a quadrant model. But his quadrant model, he talks about 4 levels of consciousness type of thing, where he says there's the subjective interior consciousness, objective interior, subjective exterior, and objective exterior. You mix those 4 together, you get the 4 levels of consciousness. But it's nothing like this Theory of Everything, because this Theory of Everything says that all of existence, from physics to chemistry to painting to everything, you're going to see this dominant expression of the quadrant form. And of this 4-fold 3+1 relationship. it just happens to be that was one of the only books I read that had talked about the quadrant model in that book. But the thing is, I could have read any book and I would have come across quadrant stuff, because I'm not making this up. Everything is the quadrant model.
Right.
You know, so, but I think that book really helped me to be able to discover it, because in that book, he describes, like explicitly this pattern, what he called it the holistic pattern, where things transcend and include. And that's how I was able to discover this. Remember, I said that when I was looking at this personality model, I was thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming. And I thought, well, dreaming transcends, but it includes the first three. And I got that idea from reading Ken Wilber's book.
Wow.
Because he describes how each quadrant adds to, but includes the aspects of the quadrants before it. So when I wrote out this personality model, that's how I was able to come up with that realization, because I'd already been exposed to that idea.
Yeah. So does DNA fit into this at all?
Yeah.
We don't have to go there yet, but
there's four nucleobases: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. It's adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. And then in RNA, there's 4, which is adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. So again, that's the fourth aspect. The fourth nucleobase is different. And it's also interesting that DNA, the nucleobases, they have phosphate groups in them. And phosphates are made up of a phosphorus atom and 4 oxygen atoms in a quadrant formation. So this quadrant is expressing itself dominantly everywhere. And if you look at chemistry, especially organic chemistry, the chemical formation you're going to see that's the most pervasive is the methyl group, which is a carbon and 4 hydrogens, or it will be carbon and 3 hydrogens connected to something else, like a nitrogen or something. That's the methyl group, and carbon's called the miracle element because it has 4 valence electrons, and because of that, it has a lot of it can connect in ways that can make it very versatile compared to other elements. Another element that has 4 valence electrons is silicon, and actually carbon and silicon are both called the miracle elements. And if you think about silicon, the computer's made of silicon. The Earth is basically just one giant ball of silicon, and basically silicon is also a quadrant. But and another interesting thing is germanium also has 4 valence electrons, and germanium you find that a lot in transductors in electronics. But the most prevalent formation you're going to find is a tetrahedral carbon and 4 other element formation. It takes a tetrahedral pattern. A tetrahedron is actually basically a quadrant, because if you think about it, you have the carbon here, then you're going to have a hydrogen here, hydrogen going up, a hydrogen to the left, hydrogen below. But even when it takes the tetrahedral formation, you're going to have just the hydrogen right here going down at an angle. On the right side, the hydrogen on the left side is going to be going down at an angle. And then there's going to be a hydrogen above and then a hydrogen below. And that's still a quadrant, but that's a tetrahedral formation. Actually, even water is a tetrahedral formation. If you want to look at
platonic solids again, right?
Yeah, the tetrahedron is one of the platonic solids, and there's 4 of them, or 4 main ones that represent, according to Plato, they were the 4 elements. So the tetrahedron was fire, and the octahedron was earth, the icosahedron was water, and the cube was earth, the icosahedron was water.
I don't know if the icosahedron's in the first 4.
Oh, the dodecahedron is the ultra transcendent 5th. That was God. That was ether.
Yeah.
So in terms of the quadrant model, the 4th is transcendent, the fire. But then in Aristotle's physics, he says there's only those 4. But then later in the physics, he mentions there's also a 5th, but he says it's in the stars, and he says it doesn't affiliate with the first 4. So the first 4 is a quadrant, and they're all connected with each other. But then the 5th, it doesn't have any relationship with them. We're into a new quadrant. So and even like I was talking about silicone, it turns out that the Earth's crust and Earth is, or just Earth itself is like 99%, or the vast percentage of everything in Earth is made up of just 4 elements. It's oxygen, silicone, aluminum, and iron. And that's kind of like the human body is only made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And then the atmosphere, it has 4 levels. Let me look up the 4 levels.
Stratosphere,
Ionosphere.
ionosphere, and bionosphere.
Anyways, there's 4 of them, but the 4th one's different. The 3rd one's more physical. Again, it's the same type of pattern, but also the atmosphere is only made up of 4 gases, mainly. Like 99% is made up of 4 gases: nitrogen, oxygen, argon, and carbon dioxide. And I learned about that in a teaching company course where they drew it up as a quadrant again.
So it's just all over. I mean, how do you put this all like what's going through my head now is like we just had we had
Foster Gamble.
Yeah, about Thrive, and this is reminding me of that because of the structure of the unified field, and how they're trying to model everything to the unified field, like whether it's energy or society or culture. Like, I mean, you can sort of mimic nature in that way. So how can we use this for this quadrant model for good, or for, personal, I don't know, development? Or is there any kind of like quadrant meditations, or can you tap into, like, how do we tap into that quadrant power, I guess, if everything's based on 4s and quadrants?
I discussed this in my book, and actually in the last talk I gave. So they're trying to come up with the quantum field theory, and there's 4 domains of physics. One is the quantum mechanics, would be the first quadrant, which is weird. The second one is classical mechanics, which is the normal one. The second quadrant is always normal. The third one is relativistic mechanics, which is more action oriented. It's about how when things move at the speed of light, time changes. That's what Einstein kind of discovered.
And classical is just like
that's Newtonian.
Yeah, Newtonium. Yeah.
And these are, and then the 4th domain is quantum field theory, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to come up with a theory of everything in physics, and they think that that's a theory of everything. But what I say is it's not a theory of everything, and they're not going to discover it, because all they're going to discover is that this pattern is all pervasive and the dominant pattern of existence. And the reason why they're not going to discover it is because the 4th is always different. It always doesn't belong. So they might discover it, but it's just what they're going to discover is they're going to find something weird that doesn't belong. And quantum mechanics is a weird first one. And that's, and all that existence is going to be, the more that people scrutinize it, is they're just going to see reiterations and an ensemble of like a fractal network of this pattern expressing itself in all, like, omnidimension. I call it omnidimensionally, like omnidirectionally. Omni means
everywhere.
infinite.
Yeah.
Blake from the chats asked if you are familiar with Miller indices.
No, who's it?
I'm not sure, but he also said, this guy, he's on the exact same thing I've been pushing. Ryan Merkle, let's connect when you get a chance, sir. You are right on the money with your thought structure.
Wow.
What's his name?
His name is Blake.
Because I want to look him up really quick. Blake what?
Oh, I don't think, though, the guy's name that he asked familiar with is Miller.
Oh.
Miller, INDICIES. I'll send you Blake's email.
Miller indices.
Indices? Could be indices if he's Greek.
Yeah, so this is the thing about the quadrant model, is this is Plato come to life, because we have four main domains of inquiry. Science is based around sensation, perception, response, awareness. Religion is based around belief, faith, behavior, belonging. Art is centered around thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming. Like music is very emotional. They spark thoughts, they spark inquiry, right? But then when we get into the 4th, that's philosophy, and that's what Plato was. But philosophy, we're in contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. But what can you really know? That's what, I know it was, I think Aristotle said that knowing begins with sensation. That's the first quadrant. So Aristotle was more of a scientist. And that's true. what you know is the beliefs, faith, thinking, sensation, empirical data, and how all these interrelate, and they're producing each other, they're informing each other. According to Jesus, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you could move a mountain. Maybe your faith and your thoughts and all these are all interacting with each other, and we might be in some sort of dream world, like Yogananda says, right?
Yeah,
we're in a dream. But according to Plato, the only thing that we can really know is geometry, and that's so. When I looked up this guy Miller, talks about the Miller indices, and this is just about geometry. Looks like mathematics, and Plato kind of put that on a pedestal because he said that everything derives from the world of forms, the world of archetypes, this world of geometry, mathematics, and he said that's the only thing that you can really know, because he said that if you look at anything within this world, it's imperfect. Anything in the phenomenal world's imperfect. You look at even a triangle written on a board, it's not really a triangle. There's going to be slight deviations with it, and the world of phenomena, of sense data, that's not the real world. But he said the only thing you could really know is the world of forms, and he claimed that we come from the world of forms, and that's why. And he said that's why we know mathematics. He had this one. There was one Plato's dialogue called the Meno, and in the Meno, Plato discusses, or he has Socrates, kind of dialogue with a slave, and the slave doesn't. The slave has never received any education, but he understands mathematics. He understands the relationships of geometry. And what's fascinating about the Meno is, in it, Plato tries to prove the immortality of the soul, and that he said knowledge comes from the world of forms, this mathematical world, and that we originate from this world of forms before we come into this world. And that's how this slave Meno could understand the geometry that he was showing him. But what's really cool about this dialogue is that Socrates, that the form he draws, a geometric form he draws in the sand to prove the immortality of the soul, to prove the world of forms, is a quadrant.
Huh.
He draws 16 squares in the sand. He draws a quadrant model.
Nice.
And 16 personalities. Is there
any connection with Thoth Hermes and the 7 liberal arts and sciences? Like, does that fit into your 4 and 3 model at all?
Yeah, that's the quadrivium and the trivium. So there's the four sciences that are the quadrivium, and those were seen as more difficult, and then the trivium were the 3 liberal arts, and together they make the 7 fields. But this is what Plato drew in the sand. It was a quadrant model.
Oh, it's too bright. It's for some reason it's showing up. Just a quadrant. Yeah.
Is the so the form world, I wonder if that could be like the same as the spirit world or the underworld, or in different like magical rituals, you got to enter that realm and fuck around with stuff so you can come back to this realm. And it seems like
even the psychedelic
when people
stuff,
do ayahuasca or DMT, they're going into a different realm that are manifesting
geometrical shapes, forms.
Well, not only that, and you can also seems like you can subtly adjust reality or your experience when you get out without even really knowing how you did it. It's sort of that same.
Yeah, it really blows my mind, man, that we're in this reality, this quadrant reality. But the cool thing about this is the quadrant model kind of makes sense of this a little bit, because in the 4th quadrant, remember, we're transcending the body. You're talking about what happens after death, the hell or whatever. But we have thinking, motion, doing, dreaming. Then we have contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. Now we're transcending the body. We're moving into the astral, the spiritual realm. And one thing that influences it, you talked about drugs. For instance, like DMT would be an example. It's called the death molecule. People call it the death molecule because it kind of induces a state of death in the person. People say that when you die, and it's related to dreaming. This molecule is related to dreaming. Remember, dreaming is the 4th quadrant of the 3rd quadrant, and that's pointing to death. The So the fourth quadrant or third quadrant, the fourth quadrant always points to the quadrant that comes after it. So the nature of the fourth quadrant is going to indicate the qualities of the quadrant that comes after it. So the fourth quadrant of the third quadrant is dreaming, and that's pointing you to death, which is the fourth quadrant: contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. And that's if you want to look at the 4 seasons: spring, winter, fall. Fall is destruction, and the third quadrant is bad destruction. And then we have the fourth one, which is death. But are you guys still there?
Yep.
But I was talking about DMT, and DMT is like the death molecule, and what it does is people say that they're interacting with these extra terrestrial types of beings, almost like gods, almost like they're in some sort of spiritual realm, and maybe they're getting in touch with with what comes after knowledge, which is being, which is the true reality, the truth world, and there's an idea that only God knows. Can we know anything? Only God can know, but maybe you can only if you really transcend the body and you and you're completely free of the ego body, and then you're in that realm, and that's maybe what kind of drugs can help to propagate that.
And that could be the Plato's world of forms again.
Yeah, and then you're getting the world of forms and the true world, and then the idea is it's not just DMT. We talk about ecstasy. What does ecstasy mean? Ecstasy means transcendence of the body, ecstatic.
And I mean, how many people say that is the reality and this is more like a dream world? Like people say that when they get there to that oneness, that ultimate sort of feeling of love, like that's more real than this reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to mention one more thing too. Is it was cool. I was listening to this one guy talk about how he said that alcohol. I forget the quote, but it's something how alcohol is the only thing that brings the truth, and alcohol is called spirits. Some people called it spirits in like ancient times. So alcohol also kind of can induce this transcendence of the body. Where people when they drink alcohol, they lose their inhibitions, and these drugs. The idea is that they can kind of promote this transcendental consciousness, this death type of consciousness, and that's what knowledge is. That's when we're getting into knowing. Knowing. And in the Bible, when Adam and Eve bite out of the tree of knowledge, some rabbis claim there's actually 4 main fruits that they say that they probably ate. One of them was grapes, and they think it was that they really drank wine. And so they were getting connected to that transcendental realm. And then why does God say don't drink don't eat from the fruit, don't drink from the wine or whatever? He says it's because then they'll become like us, like the gods. Then you can know once you die. Only when you die can you know.
Unless you smoke some DMT and cheat.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, then you're doing the fruit of knowledge. Interesting.
Yeah. Wow, that's a fun chat. Where can so you've got the Facebook page. We'll link to that in the show notes. Where else can our listeners track you down if they want to know more of this stuff?
Yeah. Should I give them my phone number?
No, I wouldn't do that. Maybe an email address.
Go to quadrantmodelofreality@gmail.com or quadrantreality@gmail.com. No, quadrantmodelofreality@gmail.com. Yeah. My bad.
Perfect.
Yeah,
and you're on Facebook as well.
And Facebook, go to Ryan Merkle, and then you're going to find a ton of links that are just going to inundate you with a ton of quadrant information. And then basically just stuff that I gathered over the last 10 years, or really I started really posting a lot of this stuff, mainly like the last 6 years, but I've been studying it for like the last 10 years. But, and then also I would go to just type into YouTube, True Theory of Everything, Quadrant Model of Reality 1. And then you'll get some videos I made in 2013 that really get into depth about the details of the different quadrants. And I actually have a lot more that I haven't, I have a lot of videos hidden right now.
Yeah. What do you plan on doing with all this in the near future?
I want to find a place to teach it. So I want to find some sort of university or institution where I could teach this. And I want to get books out. I want to get this idea promoted. And I really do think that I discovered the theory of everything. that our existence is the quadrant reality. And so what I'm hoping is that the world kind of
finds a way to help you get it out there.
Kind of adopts this as a framework of understanding existence.
Interesting. So how do you have this are you going to put it into sort of a presentation? I don't know how to say it, a presentation format or like something a little more, or is that what you're going to do with your YouTube maybe?
Yeah, well, I would say I already have a really good YouTube videos. The thing was I had them hidden for like 7 years because this is a crazy thing. And this is the idea that Jesus talked about actually. Because I read the Bible a lot after this and I studied a lot, so I know a lot about it. So Jesus talked about that the stone that the builder rejects will become the capstone. And I've noticed that so many freaking times in my life that I reject something thinking it sucks, and then it turns out that that's like the best thing. So like this YouTube video in 2014, I rejected it. I hid all my videos because I thought that they were blasphemous, and I thought that I was going to go to hell, you know. And I became a religious fundamentalist. So I was a religious fundamentalist for a very long time. But from 2009 to 2013, I wasn't. And that's when I made these first videos. But I rejected them. I thought this was bad, and I was never going to show them to anybody. But then in just recently, like 2020, I was looking at the videos. I was like, man, this stuff is really good. And I stopped, and I started to see things clear again. And I noticed like the way that I became wasn't true to reality. Like I wasn't authentic, and I wasn't being. I didn't really. I became kind of deluded. So then I looked at these videos. I was like, wow, this is the best stuff I ever did. So I just unhid all those videos I made from 2013, and they're really good. And they explain this stuff really in depth. And I have a lot more that are that I haven't unhid yet, but I plan to also unhide those. It's not that I'm trying to be like, what's the word? Like I'm not trying to be like, secretive or anything. It's just that I haven't gotten around to it because I've been doing so much other stuff.
Right
on. Well, we'll put you in touch with our buddy Blake too, because it sounds like this stuff is hitting home with him, and he's been hanging around the chats of ours for a while now, and it'd be interesting to see if you guys could come together on something.
Yeah, connect with me with as many people as possible, because really I want this to spread. Yeah. I want this people to accept it as, you know, as accurate to the way the reality is, and really, I don't want to use like embrace it, but just recognize it, and also I'd like to find a place to teach it. I think that will help a lot for me to be able to teach somewhere.
I feel like it'll be more of like the esoteric schools or something. Like there's so much interest in all this connected symbology and the connected theories, and this goes back. It connects contemporary stuff with stuff in the past. I mean, these teachers have been teaching stuff that fits in with this model for thousands of years. You know, I mean, I feel like it's kind of more. There's a lot of interest in that. It's good timing to bring this out.
Yeah, and I think that when I first posted the quadrant stuff, I think that I kind of disrupted the like collective consciousness of existence. That was in 2013, and that's when a lot of shit started hitting the fan in reality. And it hit the fan for me. And I think that that now I'm seeing things clear, and I think that I can help reality now. I can help people to kind of break free of this kind of chaos of consciousness that's been going on for a little, like these last like 4 years or whatever. It's been pretty wild. If you just think about all that's been going on.
Oh yeah.
Wait till the next 4, buddy. Strap in. Right on, Ryan. Well, we appreciate taking time out of your personal life to come on the show and rap with us. And we wish you all the best, and we'll put you in touch with Blake, and maybe we'll have you back on down the road when it's coming together, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I really appreciate that, guys. I really am really thankful for you guys having me on, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was a blast.
Yeah, it was a fun chat. I'm sure the listeners will like it, and fucking right. We'll do this again down the road. I think you should check out the Vortex Mass stuff. And then we'll get you in touch with Mr. Blake Art. He says his theory that directly correlates with what you're saying
Yeah.
Thoughts, deeds could be charted and graphed along the lines of dimensional thought.
Mhm.
So it sounds fun. Right on, Ryan. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good one. Take care.
And that was a chat with Ryan Merkle. What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, it was fun. That was good. I mean, honestly, it's his work is. I don't know how they put. I mean, we come across researchers like this, and there's so much information in this website. The quadrant model summary. There's 59 summaries.
59 summaries?
Yeah, and there's the science and
What's
religion.
number
It goes all. It's it's unbelievable, right?
Have you been going down a quadrant theory rabbit hole?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh.
That's 30. Did you get a 33?
The swastika pose.
What? That's 33? The swastika yoga pose?
The swastika auspicious pose, yeah.
Well, it doesn't just say swastika. It's a swastika sauna.
Oh, swastika yoga. Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
We'll put a link to that.
That was a really powerful symbol for the good before,
We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Is it seriously number 33?
Yeah.
Nice. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Big thanks to Ryan for coming on the show. I think we're one of the first shows he's done.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, honestly, there's so much information there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Big thanks to Ryan for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for tuning in. If you can, guys, if you're getting some value from the show, if you like the little show we're doing here and you'd like to keep it going, help us get to maybe 1,000 episodes one day. We're almost at 500. Go to Grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly. We got a Stripe option, PayPal option, Patreon option. You can send cash stashed in a book, whatever the fuck. If you want to give us money, we will find a way and we will use it to grow the show and just help do Grimerica stuff and just, help build an empire that can maybe one day not get knocked over because fucking Mark Zuckerberg said so. So, Grimerica.ca/support. If you're getting a little value from the show, send a little value back our way.
Did you see that? Did you see that link to the old ferry for sale? Speaking of empires.
Old ferry?
Yeah. Instead of a cruise ship, there's an old ferry. We could just do that.
It's not an empire, actually. It's a hegemony.
Yeah.
Can you sleep on a ferry?
Oh, you'd have to retrofit it completely, but...
Like with plumbing and it's hard to add plumbing on a boat. This is... It'd be good to get one that's plumbed in already. Yeah. Do you just dump the shit in the ocean when it's full?
Yeah, probably.
Because I could brush my teeth with salt water, I think.
Yeah.
Just pipe in the salt water straight out of the ocean. I could brush my teeth with that, shower with that. Just need the fresh water for drinking. We could collect rainwater. Or we'll get a desalinator.
Yeah, they have those. They just, they're just not allowed to be put into use.
Can we get one for the boat?
Sure.
We'll just have to buy it in international waters with cash.
We'll have to buy it off the dark web.
We can do it at the same time as we get our little mini nuke. Not weapon, but
power source.
Power source. Yeah. Little $50,000, $60,000 backyard nuke, good for 100 years. Away we go. All right, guys. Grimerica.ca/support. If you can, when you can, do all the stuff in the show notes. We love you. Be kind to each other. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week.
5 pink flamingos and a few flamenco dancers. They're in the kitchen and they're baking Day of the Dead cookies. And I step into the kitchen and I'm like, let me have a lookie, see what kind of cookie you're cooking up. And they're looking up at me skeptical, and I Poindex to my spectacles. And I'm wearing a maroon Harvard t-shirt. Yeah, I know I'm a smart cookie, but I'm no psychic. You can come and ring my bell, but where we're gonna end up in the future, I can never tell. I can never tell. Me and 5 of my best friends and a few of my enemies, we're at the coffee shop and we're settling our differences. Benjamin Otto pulls out a game of Chinese checkers, and he orders a cappuccino. And I pick blue, and he picks red, and you pick yellow. And I'm wearing a tie-dye peace sign t-shirt. Yeah, I know I'm a peacenik, but I ain't no hypocrite. You can come and ring my bell, but where we're gonna end up in the future, I can never tell. I can never tell. One bell, one man, and with my sense of smell, I can smell the salt in your tears. And I can sense your fears. You're hoping for a bit of divinity in this worldly vicinity. And you understand the fragility of the human vessel. And you sit Indian style like a pretzel. And you levitate to a transcendental state when you meditate. And you levitate to a transcendental state when you meditate. And you levitate to a transcendental